Okay. Thank you, Amit. Hello, everyone. Okay, still sleeping. I'm the jet-lagged one, and you're sleeping. Come on. Hello? Okay, maybe some questions to make it interactive. First, a simple question. Who's here today? Anyone here today? About 10% of you, okay? Maybe another question. Who has a CRM solution in their company? Only our CIO? Come on. Who has a CRM? Okay, this is not going to work. Okay, who has more than one or two CRM solutions? One of you, two of you? I don't know why, but okay. Who has more than one or two HR solutions? Few of you. Who's using more than, let's say, a handful of network infrastructure vendors? Few. Who has more than 20 cybersecurity vendors? All of you, right? This is the way the industry looks. Every time there is a problem, there is another patch, another solution coming out, and it just doesn't make sense. Amit said that we're the largest vendor in the industry. Last fiscal year, we did almost $3 billion in revenues. That's in a $100 billion industry. You won't find any other industry where the leading vendor has 3% market share. It just doesn't happen. Only in cybersecurity it happens, and this is the outcome. Okay, the outcome is just something that doesn't make sense, unmanageable, and sometimes I go back and try to think how we got to this point, and maybe let's go back 25 years ago. So for those of you who remember, let's get a little bit geeky here. 25 years ago, firewalls were ACLs, access lists, embedded in routers. Anybody use them 25 years ago? Yeah, quite a few of you. But then they kind of didn't work, right? Because you had to allow, and I'm getting really geeky here, okay? You had to allow all packets that didn't have a SYN on them, right? Basically, all established TCP connections had to be allowed, not that secure. And then applications started to change. They became more dynamic. Applications like FTP, remember FTP, where all of you had to open everything coming from source port 21? Remember that? Yes, yes. Very secure, right? Because nobody can fake a telnet connection coming from port 21. And, it didn't work, and we needed a solution. So the first solution, the first go-to solution, at least of the network security industry, is a proxy. So we put up a proxy. The proxy would take some of these connections, break them, add a lot of latency, and very few applications would be supported, in this case FTP, but it kind of worked. But then more and more applications came out, and it just didn't work really well. So what did I have to do? I had to step back and say, OK, first, 2 boxes, 1 network location doesn't make sense. Let's try to do it in one. And second, there has to be a better solution than just breaking the TCP connection. And the better solution became known as stateful inspection, right? Which we created about 25 years ago. And then that was great, but then applications kept changing. Applications started developing vulnerabilities because it wasn't just basic web browsing and SMTP that's been around forever and FTP and Telnet. More and more applications, usually running on top of port 80, came out, became more and more vulnerable, and we needed something to deal with that vulnerabilities. So first came IDS. Of course, IDSs didn't work really well because they only created more problems, because you had to deal with what they did. So I had to create the first IPS in the world. Fine, that worked. And then more and more applications started running on port 80, and we had to do something with that port 80. So what do? Great, we put a proxy, and then that's what we do every time we have a problem that we can't figure out a solution because nobody's willing to step back and think about it. But that's OK. But then more and more things had to be put on the network, like sandboxes and network-based anti-malware and, I don't know, behavior analytics probes and more and more. So we had to step back and look at this and say, OK, how can we take all of that without putting just everything in one box and calling it a UTM? How can we just take a step back and find a fundamental fix for this? And the answer, of course, was let's create something that understands all applications and applies all these different security checks against all applications as a subscription service, and we called it the next generation firewall. And the next generation firewall came as hardware, then as software, then as a service delivered from the cloud, but that's what the next generation firewall did. And as you can see, there is a constant fight between those who just want to add more and more and more and more solutions to solve or to plug another hole, and those, the few of us, that are willing to step back and invest, number one, CPU cycles in our heads, and number two, the money that it takes to build the right solution. And today, I want to talk about yet another situation that's brewing, where the industry is suggesting that we need to make things overcomplicated because there are different things that are happening and we need to plug holes, and suggest something that I think is much better, okay? This time, we're going to try to do it before everybody here buys the new solution or the different solutions to plug the holes, and give you the opportunity to do the right thing from the get-go. So what's happening, yet again, is a change in applications. Okay, remember, 25 years ago, it was applications becoming dynamic. 15 years ago, or over the next following 10 years, until 15 years ago, it was applications becoming vulnerable, and applications starting to run on the same port. And now the challenge is that, whereas in the past, things looked like this, right? We had a data center, a corporate data center, whether on-premise or co-located, and we had our network security stack in front of it, and the internet. And then, because applications were sitting in the corporate data center, we used IP VPNs, like MPLS, VPLS, or whatever, in order to access those applications. And we had a few mobile users, so we deployed an on-premise remote access solution. Maybe it was part of the firewall, maybe it was a separate one to support our mobile users, and things were simple. Today, the challenge is that applications are moving to the cloud. First, they started moving to SaaS. Then we started deploying corporate applications in the public cloud. And this just doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense that our branch office traffic will go through our corporate data center, and then from there go out to the internet, into our SaaS applications, and into our public cloud deployed applications. And it doesn't make sense that the mobile users will take the same path as well. We need something better. So the solution, let's plug the holes, right? So what we're starting to see the industry suggesting that we do is, first, let's take off the mobile users, right? What do we do to solve the mobile user issue? What do we deploy? A proxy, right? So the first thing we do is we deploy a proxy for the mobile users. You know, there are different solutions for that. So deploy a proxy for the mobile users. And then for the branch offices that we want to connect directly to the internet, we have the challenge of the internet not being reliable enough. We can't count on latency. We can't count on jitter. We can't count on packet drop, and so on. So we'll use a technology called SD-WAN, right? So SD-WAN, basically, instead of buying one internet connection, you buy two internet connections from two different vendors, and you do something to measure the different network parameters on both links. You can buy more, by the way, and then you choose the best route or the best interface to put your packets on, and you just hope that this decision will be the right one throughout the entire way, which is never the case. So what happens with SD-WAN is, number one, once we do that, we have a security challenge. Our traffic doesn't go through our security stack in the data center anymore, which means that either we deploy our security stack in each branch office, which is usually very difficult to do. So what we do is we deploy a subset of it, or sometimes we deploy almost nothing and stick our head in the ground and just hope that the bad guys don't know that the branch offices are not connected directly to the internet, kind of like allowing port 21 source port to get into our network, right? But the other challenges is that the performance is not reliable. I'll explain that in a second, why the performance of SD-WAN is not as reliable as you might think it is, and that leads to increased complexity. So the reason the performance is not reliable is because when you have two links and you start measuring the network parameters on them, that really works well in what we call the first mile, or the first few hops, right? The first few routers, or I think here you say routers, right? So that works okay, but then after a few hops, things started going a little bit bad because you don't really know which path the packets are going to take. The paths are changing all the time. And then lastly, if we're going to SaaS applications or cloud applications, the peering at the end, you just don't know where the peering is really going to go out from. So the performance of SD-WAN, for those of you who've tried it already, you know, is not that great and can't really replace an IP VPN. So what ends up happening for those that go with SD-WAN is that you end up building your own IP VPN. Essentially what you do is you put hubs in different places around the world. Usually there will be 2 to 4 in the United States, quite a few in Europe, and you'll put some in Asia, and if you have offices in Africa, you'll put in Africa, and so on. And I mean, so on would be Antarctica, I think, right, and Australia. But then you connect those different hubs with your own private link that you buy from different providers around the world, depending on the region, and then you buy your own peering into the SaaS applications and the public clouds that you care about, and different branch offices will connect to different hubs based on where they are, and this becomes much more complicated and much more expensive than IP VPNs. Okay? And we still haven't solved the security issue. So now you have to take your security stack and deploy it in all branch offices, or you take the security stack and you deploy it where you deployed your hubs, and the complexity is just unbelievable. So rather than taking an existing situation and trying to change it so that it works, so you put a proxy for the mobile users and you use SD-WAN for your branch offices, what we think needs to happen is you take a step back, you look at the challenge that you have, and you try to find the right solution, even if you have to build it from scratch, which in this case we didn't have to. But that's what you do. You have to find the right solution for the right problem. And we think that the right solution for this is to build a private network, a worldwide private network, an IP VPN network, and then allow onboarding that network from using different methods, either IPsec or SD-WAN from the branch, using IPsec or SSL for remote users. You can even connect your partners to this through IPsec or SSL or clientless SSL, what's called SSL VPN. That network has to have the right peering into all the different SaaS applications and all the different cloud providers that anyone that is using that network might use. Of course, it needs to have links back to your corporate data centers where you still and will probably for a very long time have applications. And most importantly, the security stack has to be embedded inside that network. So both the security stack for securing your network traffic, what you have today in your data center, as well as CASB for securing access to SaaS applications with all the different subscription services that you have in your on-premise security stack today. Okay, so it looks simple. It actually is simple once you deploy it. I'm not saying that it's simple to build it, but once you build that, you've built the right solution. You build a private network. If the private network has enough POPs around the world, let's say 100 or more than 100, such that no matter where you're trying to onboard the IP VPN, with a few hops you'll be there, and then from there, of course, things are guaranteed, then performance is going to be pretty much the same as the traditional MPLS-based IP VPN, only that here, you have much better access to SaaS applications and cloud applications, and you've consolidated all your access needs, remote users, branch offices, partners, traditional data centers, cloud data centers, and SaaS into one system with complete security built in. Okay, so that's the solution we are proposing. We're not the only ones proposing it. Like Amit said, a couple of months ago, Gartner published a paper titled SASE, that's how you pronounce this, SASE, Secure Access Services Edge, in which they talked about very, very similar concepts. What they talked about is the convergence of security and networking with all these different features, which, by the way, as you probably know as our customers, we provide all of them in our firewalls or in our CASB. And those that we don't, we might announce today. We'll see. Actually, I think the press release is out already, so we announced, right? And Lee will talk about it later. And all of that converge into one system. So we believe in that. Gartner believes in that. And I think that it's more than this. You know, for the last 25 years, ever since I started my career in the cybersecurity industry, when I was 5, I've been hearing this rumor that the networking vendors are going to kill the standalone cybersecurity vendors, because why would you want to buy a standalone security solutions when you can buy it embedded in your routers and your switches and your network and so on? And it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened because security turned out to be more important than networking, and nobody was willing to give up the level of security they were getting from the standalone security vendors in order for the convenience of running security inside the network. I actually think that the days where security and networking converge are coming. I just think that it's not going to be the security vendors that are going to get the short stick here. Okay, I think the networking vendors are the ones that are going to suffer from this convergence, and the value of the networking vendors and the need for independent networking vendors would probably be reduced, especially for WAN, especially for branch offices, of course, in data center as well because of the cloud. We'll see what remains of them when this happens, okay? So I have a simple job. My job is to draw things like this on whiteboards. When I draw it on a whiteboard, it looks a little bit more complicated than this, but I just draw it on a whiteboard, and then someone else goes and builds that. It's great. It's a system. You convert whiteboards to solutions. It's very complicated. It takes hundreds of people, and it takes many, many months, if not a year or more. And the person that's doing all of that is our Chief Product Officer, Lee Klarich, who I would like to invite to stage now in order to tell you how do we do this, okay? So Lee?
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? All right. Yes, Nir draws on the whiteboard, goes on vacation for a year, comes back, says, hey, look at that, we built something. Yes, there's a lot of people behind what we build, though. Nir did an excellent job of setting up the market need, the dynamics, the evolution, and even setting the stage for the vision for how to approach this. How do we solve this in the right way? And of course, translating that into products, that is Prisma Access. Prisma Access is the industry's most comprehensive and capable secure access service edge. And today we're actually doing a lot of product announcements here at our EMEA Ignite show. And we're going to start with actually a whole series of announcements around how we're expanding Prisma Access to be even more capable around the networking side, the security side, as well as the management side. And it's really these three areas that make up Prisma Access in our SASE solution. And we're going to start on the network. The network is really important. The network is effectively that user experience, and having a really good network and network connection is very important for enabling the users to connect to the applications as quickly and as reliably as we possibly can, really trying to replace and even up-level what they used to get with MPLS services. So I'm going to start with something that we actually rolled out a couple months ago, but it's really important to describing how we approach this with the best possible capabilities. And that is, at the end of July and early August, we upgraded the network component of Prisma Access to include over 100 locations around the world. Over 70 countries are included in that list. This is important. This is once we onboard the connection, can we do that as close to the user or the branch office as possible? And then from there, can we leverage that global network in order to have the best possible transit to the ultimate destination, whether the destination's in the data center, in the cloud, SaaS applications, et cetera. So with Prisma Access, we have over 100 locations globally for onboarding and connecting across a private network for optimal transport. Now, Nir described, though, a really important requirement, which is how do we best get traffic onto this network? And so with that, the first new capability we're announcing here at EMEA that has been hinted at a little bit is SD-WAN. With Prisma Access, we will now be able to extend to include a secure SD-WAN solution for that first mile onboarding into Prisma Access. This is integrated. We'll be able to provide ease of onboarding, ease of configuration. We'll talk about the integrated management plane later, high performance end-to-end. Now you may wonder, how is it that we were able to just do SD-WAN? Isn't this like a whole market? Isn't there whole companies that are formed to do this? The reality is, with PAN-OS, we have had a lot of the core capabilities required to do SD-WAN for a very long time. A lot of these capabilities are the foundation of being really good at network security. But we did have to extend those capabilities. And that is how we're able to go from being the absolute best at network security to being the absolute best at secure SD-WAN. Leveraging that foundation and adding the additional capabilities required on the SD-WAN side for choosing the right link, monitoring the paths, failing over as needed, tying that to our understanding of the applications, tying that to understanding of the network, and everything else. So this is one side of the how do we make sure that there is end-to-end network optimization. The other side of this is handing off from Prisma Access in our network to the applications that you're trying to get to. And to the best of my knowledge, we are the first vendor to offer SLAs, service level agreements, for that connectivity to a number of SaaS applications. We're starting with some of the leading SaaS applications in the world. We'll extend this over time. But where we are actually putting our money where our mouth is, and we are offering an SLA because we're so confident in our ability to deliver fast handoff to the SaaS applications. Right? Think about, so if you combine these three things together, you take SD-WAN, which is optimizing the first mile onto the network, that middle mile, which is far longer than a mile, it's like thousands of miles, having a proprietary best-in-class network, plus SLAs for the last mile, handoff to the SaaS applications, which are some of the most critical business applications users are trying to get to, gives us that end-to-end network optimization delivered as part of the service. Now, as Nir said, it's not just about the network. It's not just about providing connectivity. We have to secure it. And ideally, we need to secure that with the absolute best enterprise-grade security. Now, of course, with our foundation, this is very core to what we do, and Prisma Access has offered some of the best security capabilities since it was brought to market a couple years ago. We've been working on that. We've been extending it. And just this past weekend, we upgraded Prisma Access for all of our existing customers and got it ready for any new customer coming on board with additional capabilities. We've added DNS security. It is exciting, it's okay. We added DNS security. This was first rolled out on our hardware and virtual form factors earlier this year, now available in Prisma Access. I'm going to go in more detail on that later today. But this is really taking hold amongst our customers. It's a great security service. And for the first time, we're offering DLP in an inline security form factor, natively built in to Prisma Access. And of course, XDR, being able to collect the data from Prisma Access to perform analytics, detection, investigation, response workflows. So a very broad set, but also a very deep set of enterprise-class security services built natively into Prisma Access. So let me talk just a little bit on the DLP. This is new. So we've had this on Prisma SaaS for the API-based SaaS security for a couple years now. And just a couple months ago, we upgraded that with a whole new set of patterns and analytics and DLP capabilities in order to make that even better. And what we rolled out this past weekend is the ability for that same engine to be applied to inline traffic with Prisma Access. Consistent policy management, consistent visibility, consistent detection capabilities, now applied to both inline as well as API to the SaaS applications. That is obviously available now for Prisma SaaS because it's been available for a couple months. It's available in a evaluation mode on Prisma Access initially. We'll be rolling that and expanding that and making it production grade here in the coming months. So really excited about the expanding security services that go hand in hand with the expanding networking capabilities of Prisma Access. One more area, management. As Amit described, having a single control plane across all form factors is incredibly valuable. And Panorama has been able to provide that. We use the plugin architecture in order to make that possible, where we can have consistent security across all form factors, hardware, virtual, and Prisma Access as a service. But we also just rolled out and are publicly announcing for the first time here today the ability to have a cloud-based management solution for Prisma Access. You think about this, and many of you have asked for it, Prisma Access is a cloud-based solution, and you would love to have a cloud-based management framework to go with that. And this Prisma Access management plane is designed very much as a cloud service and is designed very specifically to model the workflows required for Prisma Access. So now you all have the option of either Panorama or going with the native cloud management solution for Prisma Access built directly into the service. It's super cool, it's modern, and it's designed for the workflows of Prisma Access. And when you take all of that together, both what we had plus what we just announced, this is what it looks like. This is what the most comprehensive secure access service edge looks like. All of these security capabilities, all of these networking capabilities, an integrated control plane for management across all of that. Truly incredible capability. All right. That's how we use the cloud to deliver this security. Let's talk about how we secure what runs in the cloud itself. Okay? More and more applications are being deployed in the cloud, being deployed in public cloud, consumed from the cloud, et cetera. How do you secure that? It's not actually that easy, unless you use the right solutions. But a lot of us, I think, hoped it would be really easy. A lot of us hoped that by running an application in the cloud, it would just be inherently secure. It wouldn't have to do anything. Just by running in the cloud, it somehow natively picked up, intrinsically, magically, whatever word you want to use, just magically picked up security. It doesn't work that way. There is a shared responsibility model. The cloud service providers provide security for their infrastructure. But everything you run in the cloud, you are responsible for. And it's a lot. And to make it even a little more challenging, when you think about what an application looks like when it's developed for the cloud, in many cases, it's broken apart into different microservices. And these different microservices are often deployed across different technical stacks. And so an application in the cloud actually has these different components running in different tech stacks. How do you secure that? Well, as a starting point, what security do you need to provide? There's a lot. You basically have to do all of the same things you do for an application running in your data center, but now you have to do it in the cloud. So the form factor changes, the approach changes, but what you have to do ultimately is actually very similar. But then you need to make sure you can apply it across all the different technical stacks. You need to apply it for portions running as virtual machines. You need to apply it for portions running as containers, for serverless functions, for PaaS services. And so in a similar way to what Nir was mentioning, history has a habit of repeating itself sometimes. So what has the security industry done to approach this? Well, somebody came along and said, well, I think I can do vulnerability management on VMs. And then someone came along and said, well, I think I can do that for containers. And someone else said, well, I think I can do workload security for VMs. And pretty soon, we end up with this mess. And all that complexity, the 212 vendors that Amit mentioned, all of a sudden they all end up in the cloud providing point solutions for different aspects of this problem. I don't think we can let history repeat itself. I don't think this is going to work in the cloud. And for that, we built Prisma Cloud, a cloud-native security platform designed for the cloud to protect applications in the cloud. That will provide all these different capabilities, that will provide these capabilities across all different technical stacks, virtual machines, containers, serverless, PaaS services, across the full CI/CD pipeline, that will then apply that across different cloud environments, public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, as consistently as possible, so that in one place, you can get a full cloud security suite that can understand your entire application and provide security for it, even in applications developed using these multiple tech stacks. Now, we've talked about this before. So what's new? Well, for those of you paying attention, back in July, we acquired two companies. We acquired Twistlock, which was, from our perspective, the leading container security company out there. We acquired PureSec, which was the technology leader for serverless security. Now, most of you have probably been thinking about container security. It's sort of front and center to a lot of folks. Many of you probably haven't started even thinking about serverless security, but this was our approach to get ahead of the next need that you're going to have. Because very few cloud-native applications are being developed these days without some amount of serverless capability as well. So we acquired these two companies in July. And we told you, we're going to integrate them into Prisma Cloud. And a lot of people said, whoa, geez, it's going to be a lot of work. How long is it going to take? Are you sure you can do it? Integrations are hard. We've seen this before, and sometimes things never get integrated. Probably guessing where this is going, right? So in a couple of weeks, we are going to have the Twistlock container security capabilities and the PureSec serverless security capabilities integrated together and then integrated into Prisma Cloud. So 5 months after acquisition, we will have both products integrated into Prisma Cloud as we continue to expand the capabilities of our cloud security. Now, what are you looking at? On the left-hand side, you see Prisma Cloud, and you see the different capabilities, the different, effectively different tabs within Prisma Cloud and what it offers. What you're seeing is a new Prisma Cloud Compute Security tab, and with that, it lands on what is called Radar. This is Twistlock's capability for how it visualizes connectivity between all the different nodes of applications. And from that visibility, you can start to see alerts, you can see how your policy is set, et cetera. So this is showing natively built into Prisma Cloud is a new pane of glass for container and serverless security right there. Very cool. Now, there's one last piece of cloud security, VM series. Inline security is still very relevant in public cloud environments. It's also relevant in private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. VM series runs on what at this point must be the most extensive set of hypervisors in the planet. And it continues to get better and better and better. We not only expanded the multi-cloud support, we've continued to expand the automation capabilities. Bootstrapping, dynamic provisioning, automation is super important in the cloud. VM series has a ton of different integrations for that. And again, it keeps expanding. And earlier this year, we announced a new plugin architecture for VM series that allows us to more rapidly deliver new capabilities and adapt to changes in public cloud infrastructure. And this has also been super, super beneficial to our customers. It allows us to adapt to their needs much more quickly and not have to wait for next major releases. We had our first, we call XFR release a few months ago that added a bunch of capabilities outside of the normal cycle. It integrates with the next PAN-OS release. So a lot of really good stuff happening with VM series as well to help round out the capabilities of securing public cloud. Overall, though, what you are seeing from us and what you will continue to see from us is an execution on this strategy, which is being best in class at the core cloud security requirements that you have for how to secure an application running in the cloud. Being best in class at these different capabilities, but importantly, integrating them together into a single platform under Prisma Cloud to make it really easy to consume these capabilities across your full tech stack and CI/CD pipeline.